Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leader Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the No Regret Money Plan, created for smart tech professionals who know they're doing well, but aren't certain if it's enough. We help you invest cash wisely, make the most of stock awards, minimize your tax bill, and create clarity and confidence so you could spend less time worrying and more time living the life you want. If you'd like more information, look me up on LinkedIn. That's Joe Morgan, Best Financial Life. Today, I'm very excited to have on our podcast Benjamin Ho, who is a UX designer, researcher, and strategist for 25 years. And he's an experienced leader who specializes in using curiosity to improve the human condition by creating better experiences. Thank you for joining us today, Benjamin.
Oh, thank you for having me, Joe.
So let's start with using curiosity to improve the human condition by creating better experiences. Tell me, what does that mean to you?
I think a lot of it has to do with understanding. And of course, in order to gain that understanding, you have to have that curiosity, meaning not just asking the right questions, but also the ability to frame the context, understand the context in whatever workflow or experience the person is, bound to go through. Um, and then from there, of course, with UX, everyone knows the process, and that, once you do that kind of research, you start to think about, some of the solutions that could possibly, come out of all that research. And then from there on, of course, uh, testing your hypotheses in terms of designs and, that sort of thing. So really, and I think too that, a lot of times we don't have the context that we need in terms of designing anything. And I learned a long time ago that, art is basically, creating something that expresses yourself. But then designing is basically listening to someone else and actually creating something for that person or that, whatever kind of problem you're trying to solve. So um, when you don't have that kind of context, then of course you run with your assumptions, and then that's more apt to for your product or whatever kind of problem you're trying to solve, more apt to fail. Um, and so that's where I think curiosity really is a starting point of any kind of design process.
That's terrific. I love how you say that. So, art is expressing yourself, and design is listening to someone else and creating something to help them solve their problems, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And curiosity is so, curiosity, would you say that's the main sort of tool that you use to do this?
I I think that is the primary uh, that's the primary thing. Definitely a tool, but also yeah, it has to be innate because you also have to be innately curious about something, right? Um,
What do you mean by that? Innately curious.
well, in the sense that you also have to be genuine. Maybe innate
Yeah.
isn't the right word, but genuine about being curious. And I find that too that if you're not curious, then you probably don't care, right? Um, so having that curiosity really helps to ask all those questions so that they can actually get answered. But also, because once you start on the path of curiosity, you're going to find a lot of insights, whether it's goals, needs, pain points, or any kind of workarounds that people use in terms of the workflows, at least in the UX context, right? So, and from there, you can basically start building a model from that, a model of understanding. What I use actually is called a mental model, and that's actually been created back in 2006, I think it was, or 2008, by someone else. But
Mhm.
uh, the mental model really is there to map out all the different pieces of the user experience of whomever you're trying to design for.
So you do that first, right? I mean, first you understand the customer and what they want, but then you really take an overview approach before you start actually building everything, I would imagine.
It starts in an overview, but as you ask more questions and, kind of garner more of your curiosity, you're going to get into the fine details. And so that's where, a mental model actually helps, or a customer journey. I kind of use those in, uh, in, switchingly, but anyways, so the mental model really starts once you start mapping that out, then you're able to really capture all those different points and then start to affinitize, all the different points. Because once you get into the granular sections of the task and the subtask, then it's going to be too much to remember, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people think of, okay, um, that they could be creating stories. Sure, those stories from a PM perspective, sure you could do that. But when you do that, you're also kind of encapsulating a bunch of different tasks and a bunch of different experiences that goes along with that. So the mental
And it
model.
all has to point back to what the user, what their needs really are.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
also have to have good sample size for that too. So that's where, having a good sample size and also being able to capture all those insights, then you can start to frame that problem space. Because a lot of times I find that, when you don't frame that problem space, or you don't understand it well enough, then there's going to be some nuances that you're going to be missing out on.
Yeah.
Um, and then once you start, designing for that, or whatever problem space it is, then you're going to want all those nuances. You're going to want all those details, because once you get into the interaction design, then you're going to need that, right? And if you're missing something, then well, that's great. That's then when you can actually test out your designs, and then kind of testing it out is more of a catch-all on the other side of design. So.
Yeah. That's terrific. Thanks for sharing that. A lot of good detail and information there. I'm always curious to hear how people think about, what they do. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
As you know, this is a podcast about leadership. That's what we focus on here for the most part. And I ask the same questions every episode. First question is, what does leadership in the tech space mean to you?
That's a loaded question.
Yes, on purpose.
I've seen some of the podcasts and different answers and everything. I would say leadership really, so leadership. You, I'm living in Maine right now, so leadership, you could say it's Dorigo, which is going first, right?
Mm,
So there's a different, but in tech, there's a different perspective in there. In that, sure, you could go first, but when you have a bet, is it going to be a big bet? Is it going to be a big project, or is it going to be a little bet, right? Um, and how is that actually scaling into your projects? And how much commitment are you willing to put into? So Dorigo kind of, comes to mind first, but uh, knowing that, and Dorigo, and then also having the vision of what a project you want to undertake, you're also going to have to be open to listening, and that's where I think again ties into the curiosity,
mm,
right? um, because so at least in terms of being a UX designer, a person who kind of orchestrates everything, kind of brings everything together in terms of the technical feasibility, um, the business aspects to it, right? What's and also the retention and ROI. What does all that mean, right? Um, and then from there on, also the quality of the product, or even the QA portion of that, kind of the back end, but you also want to be cognizant of that, right? So you're not just, doing the user-centered part. Um, that's kind of a given, but you're also wanting to listen to the PMs, the stakeholders, and have that understanding of, okay, we have business constraints, we have technical constraints, right? And it's leadership in that sense. Then in tech, anyways, there has to be a lot of collaboration as well.
Yeah.
Because I find that when you don't collaborate, you're basically designing in vacuum, right? And when you design in vacuum, then you're going to make all these assumptions, and you're basically going with your own gut that hasn't been really tested yet, or there's no input. And there always has to be some outside input into everything you do, at least from a UX perspective or a leadership perspective. So,
Yeah.
even if a PM who's, not so much into UX or more into UX, either way, this project manager would have to have that openness in terms of getting collaboration.
Makes a lot of sense when you're working in a creative space, but you're also trying to get things done, and there's so many moving parts and so many people, so many stakeholders involved. The collaboration has to be a big part of it. That's one of the things I love about the tech space, because in my world on the financial side, there's not a lot of collaboration on the work side, unfortunately. But it's one of the things I love about this industry. One of the things I don't love about this industry that's going on right now is the job market. Not so great. A lot of turmoil, a lot of focus in some areas, and a lot of lack of focus in other areas. What piece of advice could you give to someone who's working today to recommend them to sort of future-proof themselves or get themselves in a good position should layoffs come their way? Because we know layoffs always come out of the blue. We never expect them when they hit us.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm a victim of that, actually, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So,
me too. So
oh no.
that's why I ask.
But I mean, but that's the thing. I think the biggest thing to future-proof yourself is to learn business skills, um, and to learn
What do you
what.
mean by business skills? Like, well, what's a business skill to you?
So I would say, balance your budget. If you don't know anything about finance at all, start a spreadsheet. uh, you know, revenue expenses, or rather income and expensive, kind of on a more personal level. But always keep track of that. But also, what is the purpose? If you're running a business, then if you're starting, say, a small business, what is your purpose? Is there a need for it? Do that research, right? Because now you're actually designing something as well. And it goes back to that curiosity. So let's say you find a need of some sort, but you don't know what the market is. Well, ask around, and do some marketing analysis. And I gotta say, also use AI, because AI seems to be a really good aggregator of all the data up there. But then, of course, the caveat is that don't take it word for word. AI is just a starting point. Always review your sources, trust and verify your sources. Um, but I mean, so I think having those business skills really help. And part of it too is networking and building
Hmm.
relationships, right? Because if you don't build relationships or partnerships, then you really don't have a business. And networking, you're able to play off each other as well. So let's say you go to a chamber of commerce meeting or something, and you're a business owner now, and you have sort of a purpose, but you're still trying to test it out. Then um, I think the biggest thing is that you know uh, when you do that kind of networking, it really elevates your level of being as well, and your level of understanding, because everything's a mindset, really. And what you want to do is get to that high vibrational mindset, so that um, you're actually very finely tuned, and uh, the I guess you could say the energy within starts to um, percolate through you, and then build up a little bit more for each and every day. So you're going to want to manage that as well, but you also wanting to build yourself up. And I think so. A lot of that really has to do with business skills, networking, and really testing out your hypotheses out there.
Yeah, I love all of those things to me center around activity, right? Be active, participate, learn the business skills, but also the networking and building relationships. And you're already in an industry that's collaborative, as we mentioned. And so you have a good opportunity to build those relationships before the layoffs come at you, and then be able to use them when you do need them. And then
Yeah.
the other part of that is self-confidence that I was kind of coming out in some of the things you were saying. It's like being active and doing things gives you the self-confidence, so you show up better when you interview or when you're promoting your business or you're looking for funding for your business or you're looking for partners or whatever. That self-confidence is so important.
Oh yeah, it is, and the whole game really is the mindset. Sure. So let's say you go through a layoff. Sure, there's going to be a period of time, maybe a month or two, that you're going to be down on yourself, but also be compassionate about yourself. To yourself, because it's not your fault, right? Someone's out there, probably someone in accounting, said.
Someone you never met.
Exactly. Someone you never met, doesn't understand, has no context, doesn't understand what you do, but all they see is that number, and they need to cut because the business is failing, or they need to, been given orders by the leadership into saying, okay, well, it looks like, the market's changed. We're going to have to reprioritize. We got to find a way to reattribute certain amounts of money to somewhere else or to this whatever project. So,
And it's not necessarily true that that decision is correct for the business. It's just the strategy they've chosen. So even, it's not your fault that you're laid off, but not only that, it might have been a better strategy for them to keep you. Who knows? We'll never know. And the most important thing is to get active, remain active, network, and look forward and move on from there. Is what I'm hearing.
yeah, I think to really build your skills too, because in tech, everything's about skill, whether it's a new methodology or a new tool or new technology like AI, because of course at first everyone was like, oh, we hate AI, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden, some people are getting left behind, right?
Yeah.
And then they realize, oh, this tech is actually legitimate. However, we also know that we need a lot of stewards. So so if you treat it as kind of your enemy, but also as a friend, then you're gonna see that what is it? What's the saying? You stay closer to your enemies than you do your friends, right?
Yeah.
At least just to get that understanding, because if you don't have that understanding, then what are you actually going to be dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Um, you need that context.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't want to be left behind. You've got a lot of most people who will be listening to this have a lot of years left in their career. And so there's a lot of change that will happen.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
sure.
yeah. So let's go to the question number three. And this is a new one for our listeners. We just started using this one. But here's the question. What's the most important financial decision you've made in your tech career, whether it's about compensation, equity, personal spending, planning for the future? So this is more of a personal finance decision, but what's the most important decision you've made?
I would say always have a contingency plan.
Hmm.
Um, Always have a backup. Have your own social safety net, because if you don't, then you're going to be caught off guard. And don't rely on the government all the time, for uh, the unemployment insurance. That helps a little bit, but really, um, it that could just be a small foundation part.
Yeah.
And that's where I think too, when you have your skills and you have your idea in your business, create multiple ways of generating income, not just the one way. Um,
Yeah.
and what is it? A job is just over broke, right? That's the saying
Yeah.
anyways, right? Um, and I learned a long time ago to have, multiple streams of income, whether it's stocks, bonds, or I also heard Bitcoin was a good one, right? But also, invest in businesses or create your own businesses. Um, uh, just do what you can to learn, even if it's a small thing. If you've never been into business, or never been into, um, starting your own business, just start small. You know, it could be as simple as designing, for me, designing cycling kits or
Yeah.
designing graphics for T-shirts, right? Um, do something you love. If you're a musical person, right? Uh, go out and drum those drums or play that guitar and generate income out of that as well. Go do some gigs, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I think really the key is having multiple streams of income.
Yeah, I like that answer. Having multiple streams of income, always have a contingency or backup plan. Don't rely on the government. You also said have your own social safety net. What do you mean by social safety net?
Oh, I was just comparing that in terms of the unemployment insurance, right?
Oh,
Uh,
I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's
yeah.
kind of, yeah.
So build your own well, safety net in case
Yeah,
things go sideways. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
great. Thanks so much, Benjamin. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. Your perspective on curiosity really comes through, and that's something that we don't hear very often. So I'm grateful that you brought it here. Just as a reminder, this is sponsored by the No Regret Money Plan, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their lives with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Thanks, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.